tell me when you're on there. That's all working. Okay, good. So we've got.
Let's get everybody seated before you start on the.
Okay. Please, everybody, come on back in. Let's have a seat here. We've got to kind of keep this thing going here. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem. It's going to be too late. We'll be able to get people started. Come on back in. How you doing there, Jason? Good, good. Okay. Really, the only way is just get up here and start doing it. Okay, so we got Randy Hughes coming up here next. Mr. Land Trust Randy Hughes. And Randy is a full-time real estate investor who bought his first rental house in 1969. After investing 10 years, Randy decided to learn more about how to protect his investment and not be a target for lawsuits. Now Randy has used land trust in his business over 35 years and says he would not own real estate in his own personal name. We welcome America's #1 expert on how to use land trust for real estate investors, Randy Hughes.
Hello, everybody. I came all the way from Illinois just to talk to you guys. So it's a pleasure to be here. Anybody in here using trust right now to hold title to your real estate? So you're buying it and titling it in your own name? Trust, yes. Title holding trust? Not the same. That's simple. We'll talk about that. So everybody who's buying real estate now is doing it in their own personal name. Is that right?
Or LLC.
Or their LLC? We're going to talk about that. I like LLCs. I use LLCs and corporations, but just not to hold the title. Because if you think about it, didn't Grandma and Grandpa teach us that you don't put all your eggs in one basket? That applies to real estate too. So if you've got 10 rental houses in one LLC, it's a nexus for a lawsuit. You have a problem with one property and they get it, they're going to get all 10 of it. So it doesn't make sense to own real estate in any one entity, whether it be it a trust, an LLC, or a corporation. What I teach you how to do is you put each property into its own separate trust and then have the LLC or the corporation own the trust as the beneficiary. That way everything's insulated. And one of the basic tenets of asset protection is separation of assets, right? You don't mix your assets. So we're going to get into detail on that. There's my standard disclaimer that says that you should seek professional advice. I know all of us are real estate investors, and we all want to make money, but it's important to learn not only how to make money, but how to keep it. Because if you're in this business long enough, you're going to run into situations, and I'm going to give you real-life stories today that have happened to me and some to my students that will demonstrate to you that you may work a whole lifetime to build this empire you're working on and lose it in one fell swoop. And that's depressing. That's not a lot of fun to experience that. So what I'm here to do is to teach you how to keep this stuff, as all the other guys that are speaking today teach you how to make it. So if you're going to spend some time learning how to make it, spend a little bit of time learning how to keep it. Okay. A little history on myself. I did start buying houses in college, as Dan mentioned, and have been a house guy. That's how I make my living. I don't make my living selling land trust information. I make it in the house business, and that's pretty much what I've done my entire life. My father deserted my family when I was 16 years old, drove off one day, never came back. He was an alcoholic. Anybody experienced that in life? That's a lot of fun. But the point is that you end up with a negative net worth. So I graduated from college with a negative net worth. Does anybody have one of those? So it's a long hill climb up to get to any sort of assets to protect. But I was the first to graduate college in my family and the first to invest in real estate. What I wanted to start investing in was apartment buildings, but I realized that you needed a little money to do that, so I kind of evolved into the house business because it took less money to get into houses than apartment buildings. And then I also found out that houses were fit my personality. I did own some apartment buildings in the 80s and 90s, but they didn't really fit my personality. I didn't like 100% turnover every year. I get about 80% retention, 20% turnover on the house business, and that suits my personality a lot better. So you're about to discover how protecting your assets can not only help you as an asset protection device, but how you can make more money using these trusts to hold title to your real estate. Is anybody in here selling houses or apartment buildings and being the banker? Where you're selling it for a down payment, and monthly payments come to you. You make your underlying mortgage payment if you have one. Anybody doing that? If you're not, that's a great way to make money in this business. Anybody heard of Mitch Stephen in Texas? He is the #1 guy in the country, in my opinion, in seller financing. He's done over 1,000 houses in the last 10 years. He did 77 houses last year. Bought them and sold them. He doesn't keep anything. He doesn't want to be a landlord. And he makes a spread. He buys it low, he sells it high on a contract, and that's a great technique. Where can it go wrong? It goes wrong when they stop making payments, right? And then you have to foreclose. Well, I'm going to demonstrate to you today how, and Mitch and I buddied up 2 or 3 years ago when he was talking to me about the problem he had, and that was people not making payments in some cases. And I said, well, I got a solution for that. Use a trust. Because the beneficial interest in a trust is personal property, not real estate. So what we do is we sell the beneficial interest in the trust on an installment contract. So if they default, we repossess, we do not foreclose. Did that soak in? Because that idea there was worth you coming today. If you take nothing else away from today, that idea is worth it. Repossession takes about 30 days. Foreclosure in my town takes about a year and 10 grand in legal fees. That's a great way to make money in this business. And the trust solves the biggest problem.
Hey, Randy,
Yes.
are they paying all taxes, insurance, and all repairs when they're in that position on that trust?
Yes, I have them pay me principal, interest, taxes. I have them buy their own insurance and put the trust on as an additional
And
insurance.
they handle all repairs?
They handle all repairs. From the IRS's standpoint, they own that property. A contract purchase is a valid purchase with the IRS, right? And so they can deduct the interest and taxes and whatever else. Okay? All right. I'm going to teach you how we combine the trusts with the LLCs and corporations to get dynamite asset protection. Anybody remember Jimmy Walker? Dynamite. And to help you avoid frivolous lawsuits. I don't know if any of you are willing to admit it, but some of us in here have been sued for frivolous reasons. And I'm going to give you a couple of real life examples, and myself included in that. And they're not fun. And they're very time consuming and very expensive to defend yourself. And if you read your insurance policy, for those of you who are thinking, oh, I don't need to do this, I've got insurance, read your insurance policy. Lots of exclusions. Many of those policies do not cover defense costs. And you can go broke defending yourself in a frivolous lawsuit. So who's using this privacy tool? Well, pretty much anybody and everybody, because you don't have to be licensed to create a trust. You don't have to hire a lawyer. Your partnership can create a trust. Your LLC can create a trust. Your IRA. Karen was talking about investing with your IRA. I've got a Roth IRA. It's a self-directed, and I always invest in a trust that then does the deal. Because sometimes you invest in notes and mortgages and things, and they go bad, and you got to foreclose, and you got to file. And I don't want my IRA's name in the local recorder's office or the newspaper filing a foreclosure action, for example. So it gives you a lot more anonymity in your investment with your Roth IRA, or your regular IRA for that matter. So everybody can create these trusts. And you know the best part? They don't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything to create a trust. There's no registration fees, no $800 for the LLC here in California. There's no tax return, there's no tax ID number. They are really the last, what I call non-entity entity that's not being tracked by the Fed or state government. There's no registry. You can't look these things up. You can't, like, go online with an LLC, you can look up who the owner is, right? You can't do that with a trust. There's no registry. Can a trust hold commercial property? Yes. A trust can hold any real estate related asset. Let me see. I'm going to teach you how to join the club today, but let's get to that. I've got a whole list here, and I think it's the next slide or two. Land trusts, and don't misunderstand the terminology, it doesn't have to just hold land, it's just kind of a name. Some people, especially in California, call them title holding trusts. Can hold any real estate related asset. So it could be a building like this hotel, could be land, houses, apartment buildings, a KFC, any commercial buildings, air rights, mineral rights. All that. I had a guy call me about 6 months ago, and he said, I want to buy your home study course. And I said, what are you going to do with it? And he said, and he was from somewhere down in Tennessee or Georgia, somewhere where they have a lot of oil and gas leases. He said, I've got 1,500 oil and gas leases, and I want to put each one of them into a separate trust, because some of them go boom and some of them go bust. And I said, well, that's smart. That's separation of assets. But he realized it would be prohibitive for him to pay somebody to create 1,500 trusts. So I taught him how to do it himself, and he just hit print on his computer 1,500 times, and he's got 1,500 trusts at no cost. So it's any kind of real estate related asset. Notes, mortgages, you can put those in there too. So why do you want to do this? Why do you want to use this form of privacy? Well, like I said, they cost nothing. They're easy to form. They create privacy of ownership because you can't look them up. Nobody knows who owns this. And while you're thinking about it, I know one thing that might go through your mind is, well, I own real estate now, so I sure wish I would have known this, but I guess I can't do it now. Wrong. You can take the title out of your name now, put it into a trust that you are the beneficiary of, or your LLC or your corporation's the beneficiary of. Now, get it out of your name. There are a whole bunch of benefits to getting out of your name. Yeah, there's a paper trail that you owned it once, but who knows who owns the trust that bought it? Where you transferred title? That could have been my trust that bought it. There's no way of proving that you are the beneficiary of the trust that took title to that. See what I mean? So get it out of your name now. There are no benefits. There are only negatives. There are only negatives to owning real estate in your own name. No positives. Because you can get all the same benefits, tax benefits, appreciation, you get it all in a trust, but you don't have the negative. What's the negative? Well, let's say you had a lien filed against you. That's going to go right on the title, isn't it? Which prevents you from refinancing or selling. Not the case if it's held in a trust. A lien or a judgment against you as the beneficiary does not attach to the property in the trust. Pretty cool. Now, I'm not saying that because you should avoid paying your liens and judgments. I'm just saying it gives you an opportunity to make some money and negotiate a resolution of those liens and judgments, as opposed to just having them lop off your head and grab it from any property that you buy and put in your name.
Can you still take out a loan on that property?
If the property is held in a trust, can you take out a loan on the property? Yes. Just the same as you would take it out if it wasn't a trust. The only difference is, since you're not the owner, the trustee is the owner. The trustee signs the mortgage. You sign a guarantee and the note. Make sense? Yes, sir.
Can you take your personal residence and put it in the land trust?
Sure can, and I encourage you to do so. Yeah, you shouldn't own any of this stuff in your name. None of it. Yes, sir.
Related to the two questions, can you do this even if there's an existing or first or second loan on the property?
Yeah, so the question is, if there are loans on the property now and you want to transfer it, can you do that? Yes, you can. Now, technically, if you do that as a commercial property, not your personal residence, it is a violation of the due on sale. But, in all the time I've been teaching this and using it myself, I've only run into one guy that said that the lender called him and said, hey, we don't want you to put it in a trust. And so he took it back out of the trust. That's one guy out of thousands and thousands of people. What I do is I just go to my lender up front. I don't use the national lenders, Chase and Bank of America and Wells Fargo. They got too many rules that I don't like. I like the local banker. So I just call the local banker up and say, I'm doing some estate planning. I'd like to title this into a trust. Is that all right? Yeah, go ahead. As long as you just keep making your payments, Randy, that's all we care about. So it's really not a problem. There's no such thing as the deed police. There's nobody out there checking every day at the recorder's office, did you transfer title to your property? And as long as you keep making your payments, it's usually okay. Yes, sir.
So if you already have your residence in a, say, a revocable living trust, can you put it in this trust also?
Well, you wouldn't have it in both trusts, but what you would do, and I'll give you a slide here in a few minutes, is you would put it into a land trust, and let's say you're the beneficiary, and the successor beneficiary, that means when you die, where's it go? To your revocable living trust. Actually, a land trust is a type of living trust, just like the revocable living trust, it's just exclusive to real estate. So, that's a really good question, and as a result, you just earned a free booklet from me. However, I'm going to have Sasha pass around a list here, and I'd like to ask everybody who's interested in getting this, give me your email address, and I'll email you a copy of this. It's over 50 reasons to use a trust. Okay? Yeah, pays to speak up. Well, it's interesting, when I first wrote that booklet about 15 years ago, it was called 32 Reasons. Go ahead and pass the form around, please. Okay. 32 reasons now, and then I got to 50, and finally I quit naming it, and I just call it Reasons to Use a Land Trust because I'm tired of changing the cover. But things keep coming up. I had a lady from Florida call. She said, I've got 8 rental properties down here plus my personal residence. They're all in my name. How can I get your land trust homestay course fast? I said, well, what's the hurry? And she said, well, I just got a call from one of my tenants, and a man knocked on the door looking for me. And I know who he is. He's interested in me, and I'm not interested in him. Boy, the light bulb went off in her head as to why you don't own this stuff in your name. He was going from property to property, trying to find where she lived. So, avoiding stalking became reason number 54, I think, in the booklet. So there's some really serious issues here, not only just privacy and asset protection, but personal safety. I've been a landlord all my life. I have 2 daughters that are now grown, but when they were young, and I had to do something like evict somebody, the last thing I wanted them to do was look me up, come knocking at my door to argue about it, and my 7-year-old daughter answered. So there are some very serious issues that we're dealing with here. And the longer you're in this business, the greater the odds are you're going to run into a problem. So you can do this yourself with my training and my forms. And once you get them, you never pay anything the rest of your life, and you'll create land trusts forever at no cost. That's a pretty good deal. Oh, I found this slide and threw it in because I thought you might find it of interest today. This is a slide on people most likely to get sued in America today. You see yourself on there anywhere? Maybe more than once, several places. Well, notice that number 1, owners of residential commercial real estate. Why is that? It's because we are big targets because we have hard assets. Lawyers are not stupid. They know there's a difference between suing and winning and collecting, right? You ever taken a tenant to court and got a judgment against him and you say, all right, where's my money? They don't just hand it to you in the courthouse there. Then you've got the right to go collect it, right? So lawyers, what they'll do is an asset search before they sue you. They search your assets. How do they do that? They go online like the rest of the world and they look up what you own in your name. So here's how the game's played. Alex, I run over Alex's dog. He goes to his lawyer and says, I want to sue Randy Hughes for $1 million. His lawyer turns his computer and says, Randy Hughes, types in Randy Hughes. And if the printer starts printing page after page of all this real estate in Randy Hughes' name, Alex's lawyer says, I think we got a pretty good case here. Alex. And Alex gets to sue me for free. It's called a contingency fee lawyer. That means the lawyer gets 1/3 of everything he collects, but he does all the work up front, no cost to Alex. Not a big decision for Alex. He's going to sue me in a heartbeat. Well, let's change the scenario a little bit. Let's say I run over Alex's dog. He goes to his lawyer and says, I want to sue Randy Hughes for $1 million, and he types in Randy Hughes, and the printer doesn't budge. Nothing's in his name. Randy Hughes doesn't own any real estate. Now, Alex's lawyer turns to him and says, well, Alex, you know, I'm not so sure we got a good case here, but I'll be glad to sue him. And all I need you to do is get your checkbook out and write a check for $10,000 to my escrow. Once a month, I'll send you a letter as to how many hours I spent suing Randy Hughes. And when we run out of 10 grand, I'll ask for another 10 grand. That's exactly how our legal system works. Like it or not. I didn't invent it. Now, Alex has a decision to make, doesn't he? How bad does he want to sue me? Probably not that bad to write a check for 10 grand and be on the hook for more down the road. So you can see, just by not owning this stuff in your name, you're going to remove a whole lot of exposure to this kind of BS. And it's happening all over America. You probably all know somebody that's been hit with these frivolous lawsuits. So just get it out of your name if you don't do anything else. Get off this list. So, I have a home study course where I teach you how to create trust the rest of your life for nothing. If this home study course would just prevent you from getting in front of these guys once in your life, would it be worth it? My home study course is $525. That's about an hour's worth of their time. 1 hour. All right. So, I come to California about once a month to speak to different places, groups like this. And there's a lady attorney in San Diego that I meet with, and she and I do a lot of trust talk back and forth. She does trust all day, every day. That's all she does in her business in San Diego. She charges $1,550 per trust, per land trust. So if you want to hire her to do it, instead of learning how to do it, I hope you got a big checkbook. So we were going for lunch one day, and we pulled up and parked, and I looked at the car in front of me, and that was the license number. So I had to snap a picture of it. And this license is an attorney friend of mine in my town. So it got me to thinking, who's looking out for me? The sharks are out there looking to get to me, but who's looking out for me? So I made a list, which isn't very positive, is it? The point here is that nobody's going to look out for you like you. Nobody's going to take the bull by the horn and get the paperwork done and do the deed out of your name now and into the trust. I've got a great lawyer. I like him, but he isn't laying awake at night worried about my assets. I can guarantee you that. It's something you've got to do. You can't buy insurance on your house when it's on fire, right? Right? So everybody in here, I bet, has insurance on their house. Don't you? You're doing that in case something happens. It's exactly the same philosophy here. In case something happens, you want these assets protected. So it's important that you take the bull by the horns and learn how to protect your own assets. Here's my list for you, sir. You asked what you can put into these trusts. As I mentioned, pretty much any kind of real estate asset. Now, if it's not real estate, let's say it's personal property, like this table is personal property, then I would suggest you put that in a personal property trust. So that means nothing in your name. Your car, your boat, your motorcycle, your motorhome, your skis, your saw, which you loan to your neighbor and he cuts his foot off with. Anything with liability should be held in a personal property trust if it's personal property. If it's real property, it should be held in a land trust, a title holding trust.
So would that apply to businesses as well? Should my forklifts and welding machines and stuff, all that stuff be held in a personal trust as well?
I'd put all that in separate personal property trusts. Now, your business, if let's say it's an LLC, could be the beneficiary of those trusts. Yeah. Yes, Jim?
So if you had 10 properties in an LLC, you could individually keep taking each one out with the trust and eventually solve that?
Yeah, if you got 10 properties now in an LLC, and I'm saying get them out of there,
Buy a trust.
you'd create 10 trusts,
Gotcha.
you'd deed out of the LLC each property into 10 trusts, and then you'd make the beneficiary of all those 10 trusts your LLC that you just took them out of. Got it? Yes, sir.
Will it protect you a divorce?
Well,
Nothing.
it's a great question. If I lived in California, which is a community property state, right, I would own everything in trust before I got married. Because then the answer is yes. Otherwise, the answer is no. If you do it after you
You're
get
back to
married.
half now.
And believe me, it's a lot easier to do this than it is to get a prenup signed. You know, in that honeymoon stage, you know, it's a little difficult to say, oh, let's stop and sign this prenup, would you please? Kind of damps down the fire a little, doesn't it? Yes, sir.
How does it affect as far as if you were doing those trusts, as far as your insurance companies? How would
Well, that's a great question. How does it affect your insurance? And in my home study course, I have a whole chapter on how to insure the property. But let me give you a straight, short answer. The name insured on the policy is the trustee and trust of your land. The name insured is the owner. Who's the owner? The trustee and the trust. Okay? But I do give you a whole chapter in here on some other creative techniques to make sure that insurance works for you. I also have a whole chapter on who can be and who should be your trustee. Who can be and who could be your trustee. You see, you don't have to hire professional trustees, although if you want one, I can provide one for you. I get no gain other than just the satisfaction out of providing professional trustees to my students who can't find a trustee. But Alex could serve as my trustee. I could create a California trust today, and Alex could be the trustee of that trust. You don't have to be licensed, insured, be a lawyer, nothing. Now, let's take it a step farther. We're in California. Property's in California. There's no federal land trust law. It's all state by state. And some states, in my opinion, have better laws than others. So, I could form a Florida land trust to hold title to my California property and have a Florida trustee. Ooh, wow. Why would in the world would I do that? The law in Florida, the trust law in Florida is going to dictate how that trust agreement is interpreted. So if the California judge is looking at it, and he says, well, this is a Florida trust with a Florida trustee, so there's a good nexus for the administration of the trust,